Um, I didn't really get to do much reading. Yeah, are you talking about books that came out this week? Oh, I got you. Um, oh, I don't think we're muted for stream.
It's time for the Unnamed Indie Comic Show with Skip and Ash. Talking about indie comics. Oh yeah. Talking about indie comics. Oh yeah. It's time for the Unnamed Indie Comic Show with Skip and Ash. It's time for the Unnamed Indie Comic Show with Skip and Ash. Talking about indie comics. Oh yeah. Talking about indie comics. Oh yeah. It's time for the Unnamed Indie Comic Show with Skip and Ash. It's time for
3, 2, 1. What is going on, everyone? You're watching another episode 21, as a matter of fact, of the Unnamed, Forever Unnamed Indie Comic Show. I am Ash, one of your hosts. Joining me, as always, and thankfully, is everyone's favorite, Skip and Tosh. How you doing, Skip?
Skip is getting over a cold, so Skip might sound a little weird, but luckily it didn't get me too bad. I was still able to function for the most part, and I was able to go around and get my comics today, but I moved a little slower than normal, so I didn't get to complete many of them. But how about you, Ash? How you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Unfortunately, I didn't get to the comic book store today, and I'm kicking myself because normally my job has me on the road on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so I'm like, just going to go on Thursday because why make an extra trip? But I was out today on a special trip, and I just came home, and I was like, by the time I got home, I was like, oh, I should have went to the store. Anyways, I'm dumb. But yeah, there was books waiting for me and everything. In fact, a book that I really was looking forward to. So I'll be going tomorrow. But yeah, I've had it pretty good. I got to go see, when was it? I think it was Sunday, maybe. I went and saw the new My Hero Academia movie. And got to go out to eat, and had some prime rib. So that was a really good day. And I don't get to go out to the movies much, especially with COVID. I'm glad I've been able to go a few times. And then I rewatched Dune on my new TV, which, by the way, that's another thing. I got a new TV, so I've actually had a pretty fortunate time off, or time since the last show. So I got a nice. I've been waiting for. It's been a long time since I've had a TV skip. It's been a while, but I got a 65-inch LG. It's nothing super fancy. It's not the high-end kind, but it looks beautiful. I can watch big cinematic things. Saw Dune on it, and I was like, it's so good. I'm so happy. So, anyways, I don't get a lot. If it sounds like I'm bragging and boasting, guys, you know me. I have very much little that I get to get all excited about. So this is my time to just be cheery about things. I'm sorry to hear you got a cold. But the good news is the cold's not extinct, because I was really fearing the cold was gone forever.
Well, yeah, I guess happy to report that it's still around. So, I'm living proof.
It is finding life through Skip.
Life always finds a way.
You are a real life hero. You're saving the cold, and we all thank you.
It's the least I can do. It's been with me all my life. It's an old friend, really, me and the cold. So here we are together again.
Well, we are here broadcasting live on the YouTubes. For those of you who may never have heard one of our shows before, this is a podcast style kind of presentation. We do a little bit of video or visuals when we do it live, but we really strive to make this show not require something that you can listen to while you're driving, you're at work, taking a shower, taking a walk, whatever you might do when you're listening to things, not necessarily having to focus your eyeballs on that. And that's partly my thing because that's how I listen to things most. So I assume others do the same thing. So if you're listening to this after the fact, maybe on a podcast, good. Hopefully you'll get something out of it. The show's format, I know I repeat myself every time, but every episode might be someone's first episode. We are here about fandom. This is a show that is basically advocating the stuff that we like. We're not really striving to be really critical about things. So we're not going to really talk about books that we don't like. There are books, plenty of them, that we don't. And there's other time for reviews and things like that. But on this one, we're just going to talk about some stuff we like. And we're going to share it with you. Hopefully, if you like it too, this will be us all geeking out together, like if we were at the shop. Or if you don't, maybe we'll be able to share something new that you might take a pick and, pick up a book. All my favorite books, Skip, I don't know about you. You seem a little bit better able to make decisions on your own. But all my favorite books are books that were recommended to me right now, currently. Like I try to think of all the books I like. Even this Firepower one. It took multiple people, putting what's that? I don't know what the phrase is. Something in your ear.
Putting a bug in your ear.
Yeah, there we go. Thank you.
Well, there's a few different ones. There's a worm and there's also a bird too.
Oh, okay. I don't know which one I would prefer, but
yeah, take your pick, buddy.
Yeah, Firepower. A couple people put a bug in my ear about it, and I was like, all right, I'll try this out. And yeah, I read that trade paperback, and Firepower trade paperback was my pick of 2018. Can you believe it's been that long already for Firepower?
Yeah, that's a trip, isn't it?
And then, you got me into a couple of books, which I'll mention in a minute, one of them. But even in the non-indie sphere, which we don't really talk about much here, but, we've mentioned books like Hawkman was a great DC book at a time. And I was a stupid Hawk. I don't care two twiddles about Hawkman. And so anyways, my point is that sometimes things you don't think sound interesting to you, maybe when you give them a try, you're like, oh, well, normally this isn't my cup of joe, but this one's really good, and it's converted me. Like ULTRAMEGA, my current top book as far as ongoing series, ULTRAMEGA I was like, ultra stupid kaiju, looks like Ultraman ripoff. What I could not care less. And then everyone's like, it's so good, and I was like, all right, let me try this out. And then I was, the rest is history. What about you? Was that familiar, or are you the complete opposite?
Yeah, he said it. I'm the complete opposite. I love when people recommend stuff, and I wasn't as open for people's recommendations maybe about like a year ago, but I've opened myself up a lot more to it now because I have missed some things, that I'm paying dearly for it now. But I'm not gonna toot my own horn, but beep beep, your boy Skip has pretty good taste. So I usually find all the books that I like just from just trying stuff out, and then in a weird way, like I said, like I get put on other books that I like because like people that I know are working on them. So if I just buy a book to support a buddy, especially if it's an indie, these days more often than not, like I end up really liking it or loving it. So, but for the most part, it's just a lot of like I dig a lot through the boxes, or like if I'm in a shop, I'll pick up a book and then I will like read a few pages and flip through it and look at the art, and then I'll kind of go off of that as well. So I think that's the funnest part for me, is that like I have a good nose for it, and it's been like that for like music and movies and now same with comics. I don't mind doing the footwork to find what I really, really like. And I think part of what keeps me motivated to do that is that work always pays off for me.
Nice. I would like to say that I know I've got good taste, but I would like to say that I'm as adept at finding the things I know I'm going to like. I do find them, like I didn't need anyone to recommend Geiger to me, for example. I didn't need anyone. Well, that's not true. Someone did recommend Oblivion Song. I didn't need anyone to recommend Birthright. There was a few books that I think are fantastic that I picked on my own, and I'm patting myself on the back.
Yeah, give yourself credit for that.
But part of the legwork for me is listening to other people. I've learned that sometimes things that don't necessarily seem like they're in the genre that you would normally like, because you can kind of pigeonhole yourself, right? Like I'm really big into sci-fi, like especially like cerebral sci-fi or any space opera stuff, and I'm big into superheroes. And when it comes to comics, like I could just stick there, right? And someone goes, well, what about this romance book? I'll be like, get it the hell out of here, like. But if it's good, good is good, right? And so, like I was just like a kung fu comic. I love kung fu. I love Asian cinema, but it's cinema. It's motion. The camera can pull back, and I can watch the martial art. But on a page, just drawing someone, it lost something to me. In my brain, that's how I'm imagining it. And then I read the book and go, oh, okay, I get it. It's not the same, but that's fine. It's great. I'm in the weeds here, but the point is, I find things. Nothing John Snowden in the chat says east of west. I'm not knowing if what he's meaning, what his context is, if that's like one of his favorite books or whatever, but it reminds me of that is one of the books you got me to read. And it is truly one of the best comics, like series I've ever read. So that's another one. I probably never would have read East of West without yours and a couple others, but mostly your recommendation. And it paid off beautifully. Let me see if anyone else, if you guys that are listening live, if you have any, we don't necessarily comment on every comment that's put in here because we are trying to do like a show, not a Q&A, but we are watching them. It does inform our discussion. And we definitely like the input. So any things that we're talking about, in this case, like comics are recommended to you or whatever, feel free, put in your opinions, put in things that relate to you. We want more input than just our own. So that being said, one of the things that we do here is we talk about comics that have recently come out, and I had it all prepped, and something went horribly, horribly wrong, and I'm trying to fix it while I talk, and it's like talking or patting your head and chewing bubble gum, or I don't know how that saying goes.
I know what you mean. So I'm going to put even more pressure on you. Can you rub your stomach and pat your head at the same time?
I can do that. I can.
Okay. All right, you're halfway there, man.
If that
add in some bubble gum and then add in some bowling pins, and you got it.
Oh yeah, I'm lost after that. If that translated into skill at doing YouTubes, I would be golden, but it doesn't, unfortunately. But on the screen, and I'm gonna see if I can get this thrown up for you here, so you can see what I'm seeing is the comics that came out. Well, I got the wrong date on. I can easily translate back one here. Yeah, 11/3. No, I want today's date. We want today's comics. Even though we didn't get to the store, we know what we're buying. We know what's going to go in our comic bag. So it might as well be as we bought them. This is what we do kind of every show. We just talk about some recent comics. This is on the League of Comic Geeks if you want to see for yourself. Skip and I are both on the League of Comic Geeks, so you can add us as friends if you wish. Follow us. We'll follow you back. At least I will. Skip's kind of a meanie sometimes. You never know. But if you send him some money, I'm sure he can be bribed.
I can be bought.
So
I have a price.
So here on the screen, we've got 14 different comics. The way League of Comic Geeks works, it's a virtual site, social media, it's a bunch of different things. I'm not going to go in it. Needless to say, the down and dirty is that the order of these books is based on the users, which users, like how the users have subscribed to these books. So it's the most popular for the users of this site. So Undiscovered Country, I'm pleased to say, is number one because that is a book that's on my pull list, so it kind of validates me. Looks like there's some good stuff on here. Anything standing out to you on these top 14?
Definitely What's the Furthest Place from Here. That was one of the books that I was really especially looking forward to after, to the point of me being more open-minded to recommendations now. And it's not always, it's funny. I say recommendations. I feel like there is a difference between someone recommending a book to you and then you just being in enough shops to hear enough people talk about a certain book. I heard people talking about Dead Dog's Bite. And so it wasn't really recommended to me, but after hearing enough people kind of just mention it indirectly, I went and got it. That was a book by Tyler Boss. And, is it Tyler or Taylor? I think it's Tyler Boss. Anyway, ended up loving that, and then come to find out that he and Matthew Rosenberg did a book that kind of had some similar vibes, but not exactly the same premise, and Four Kids Walk Into a Bank. So I found a trade for it, but I decided I wanted the floppies. So now I'm only one away from having those floppies. But then I was like, oh, hold on, wait. They teamed up again for that book with the abnormally long title and the crusty looking building on the front that looks like a small little rundown record shop here in Sacramento.
Huh.
I'm buying it.
Right.
And sure enough, I got it. And fortunately, I didn't get to read it because my new comic book day journey is kind of long now. But there's also an issue that they did where, or a deluxe edition that comes with a vinyl record to accompany the comic. So I was able to put in an order for that, and I should have that soon. I'm really excited.
Very nice. Yeah, all you got to do is put an instrument or a record store or something musical on the cover. Skip's buying it.
Yeah, it's true. It's so funny because I bought part of the reason why I bought vinyl was because it literally it's called vinyl, and I was like, oh, right. It's gonna have something to do with music, and it does. That is a core part of it, but that's not what most of the story is about. It was it was like this dude, this psychopath who murders people, but it's been pretty awesome. And then I think about Blue and Green from Ram V, and I'm like, well, part of the reason why I bought that is because it's named after my favorite Miles Davis song. And then I'm thinking about Pirate Radio or Pirate Radio Apocalypse, which is coming out this year from Ram V next week. And another big part of it is music. I'm getting ready to read what was it? It's called Hit List or something like that, and it was another book that the graphic of it looked like the little insignia on all of the CDs that you used to buy back in the day, compact disc and all that, and that has to do with music. So if it's about music, was it Murder Falcon?
Right.
Falcon. I could just go on. There's so many books for Homesick Pilots. That was a book that we were just talking about before the show. If it has to do with music, I'll be interested. But most of these, I have to say, are adding music in a very creative and satisfying way. So if you're a music lover, music comics are an easy way to find something good. Yeah. People tend to not want to screw that up because people hold music so dear.
Well, on here, the book, then we're going to give him a little more attention in a minute, but the one of the books that strikes me that came out today, and it's on my pull list. You can see the little green arrows under these pictures if you're watching, is A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance. This is a book that I picked up because of you. I was totally going to skip it. Pun not intended. And you had mentioned it was your book of the week, and we had a little bit of fun on the Discord channel. I was razzing you. I was like, you didn't pick Firepower, you traitor. And you picked Righteous. And then I was like, okay, if he picked this above, this must be something special. So I got issue number 1, got the last one at my store. Lucky. And it's worth every penny. I love this book. It's right up my alley. And I'm hoping issue 2 is equally, if not better. I'll be picking that up tomorrow. Undiscovered Country's on my list, of course. May's book, I'm interested. It's Jeff Lemire. I tend to like a lot of Jeff Lemire. I don't really like his art. I have trouble paying You know, what's this, $5.99 for the comic, and it's his art. Yeah. So
I will say that the cover is like a higher quality paper, and also the paper inside is more high quality. So some of what you're buying is actually materials for it. But I will say I've been buying this book. I've been enjoying it much more than I thought. I will say, if it wasn't for the paper, I would definitely say that this should be a like $3.99 book. But the quality of the paper, I have to say, it is very satisfying to the touch when I'm flipping through it. And I think it's more than the average amount of pages too.
that's a possibility. It's 48 pages. Yeah, that's better. I mean, it helps justify it's good quality. Like I said, though, man, if you're going to charge professional prices, right? When you go to the minor league baseball game, they don't charge big league prices, right? For a reason. They're not the big leagues. Jeff Lemire, look, you're a super talented writer. Some of my favorite books are yours right now, but it's hard. I'm going to pick this up maybe on digital later or in trade. Look, it might be great. And if for other people who maybe like the art, look, my taste in art, you don't mind it? I don't know. I can't recommend the book or anything. I'm just trying to say what the roadblock is that's getting me to fork the money over. Conversely, what's the furthest place from here is $4.99, and it's 60 pages.
It is, yeah.
It's
a thick boy.
Bravo on you guys. You know, I don't hear much about Sea of Stars. No one really ever talks about that book, and I'm not gonna.
I read issue number 1. I did really like it. Shout out to my homie Rico Renzi, who does the colors on it. Issue number 1 got me, but I think this is the last issue, if I remember correctly, or it's coming up to an end. So I'm just gonna once I knew that was what's gonna happen, I was like, I'll just wait and I'll just go. Maybe I'll even wait for the hardcover and just go all the way through it.
Nice. I did get a chance to read Out finally, number 1.
How'd you like it?
It was decent. It was good. I gotta say, it continues the trend from AWA of just making quality books. Whether they're my cup of tea or not, I can come away objectively and say, this is a solid, well done book. I have to give a shout out to AWA. I can only credit this to the editorial. And this being a company that's run by
Axel Alonso
and Bill Jim, I don't know how both those guys built up a terrible reputation at Marvel. Got fired. And whatever the case is, they're having a different outcome over at AWA. These books are, like I said, the consistency. I have not read an AWA book that was bad.
Me neither.
There's been books that I'm like, it's not really up my alley, but I can understand that it is up someone else's. And if I were an editor, I'd be like, good job. The art on this book, solid. The writing, solid. The concept, it works. It's like a horror story about being in a Nazi war camp. You're a prisoner of war in World War II, and the Nazis are, it's like coming to the end of the war and they're desperate. And so they wake up this powerful vampire creature and they decide, well, we don't know if we can control it, so let's test it on the prisoners. And the main characters are the prisoners. So it has a little bit of a feel of like Predator in that kind of way, because all the prisoners, of course, are soldiers, so they do know how to fight and do things. They're not just helpless people, even though they are prisoners, not armed. But they have talent and skills. Yeah, and it's got some creepiness to it, and I was like, this is neat. This is something that if it was a movie, I could see going to see. But I'm not big on the horror comics, so horror has to usually really stand out in a special way. And AWA does a lot of that, which is why I don't get as much of the AWA stuff, personally myself.
Makes sense. Yeah, I've been highly impressed with Titan Comics, Aftershock, and AWA. Those 3 independents have been so consistent. It just gives me so much joy and hope for the comics industry as a whole. Just that more and more different types of stories can come out by smaller and tighter publishers that, like you said, can just really lean into good editorial practices and, you know, have their customers faithfully coming back. Because most people that I know that buy, like, you know, from either one of those companies continue to buy newer series for those companies. I haven't heard of a lot of people that buy those books completely dropping off of any of those publishers. It seems that people just, you know, kind of end up, you know, buying more and more of those books, and I'm that makes me happy.
Nice. In the chat, Epidoxa says his 6-year-old son and he have been reading Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. He says he didn't grow up with them, but he's enjoying it as much as his son is. So this has been a book that I've been hearing for years about. And again, it's another thing that's just not up my personal cup of tea, but the consistency. And from all the fans I talk about, this guy, Ryan Perot, I don't know how you pronounce his name, seems to be the Power Rangers guy. If you read Power Rangers and it's by Perot, you're probably going to get something good. Everyone seems happy with that book. Thanks for shouting that out, Epidoxa. And let's see. Have you heard of this Oswald's Body? It's number 1. Came out today. I didn't know anything about this.
Is that the Christopher Cantwell book?
Oh, it's Cantwell. Never mind. Yes,
well,
it is.
Well, you know, I know how some people view the work that Cantwell is doing over at Marvel, but people tend to not always, you know, people tend to be a little different when it comes over to indie. So it could be something really good. I've been hearing a lot of good stuff about She Could Fly, which is a book that Christopher Cantwell did with Martin Morazzo, who's the artist of Ice Cream Man. And I went through it a little bit, and it was like pretty solid for the start. So I've only been hearing good things about this little kind of thriller mystery Oswald's Body book. So I'm going to give it a shot.
Well, you know, you make a good argument, Skip. I'm going to maintain some open-mindedness. I have never read Cantwell indie stuff, so you never know. Let's see. Let's do the back 28 books. Anything here striking your interest or notoriety? Or
of course, Six Sidekicks of Trigger Keaton. That book just like it's from what I heard of people who've read issue number 6. It seems like it's going to continue on, which I really hope so, because it was initially, I think, announced as a limited, or as a mini. So I really hope that it does continue on, because it continues to be hilarious. It continues to have very good visual storytelling. I know that art style is not for everyone, but there's not many books that make me laugh out loud, and this is one of them, easily.
Very nice. You seem to be a fan of that book, and it's continuing to keep your interest, so that's always great. This particular grouping, I am curious about Telepaths for the same thing. It's an AWA book. It has one of my favorite writers, J. Michael Straczynski, one of my favorite artists in Steve Epting. So I'm very interested, and it's part of the superhero universe, which is up my alley. I didn't pick it up because I have a thing about miniseries, and I'm like, I'll just get it in trade if it's good. But I'm very curious to see how that goes. I'm getting positive feedback. But the other book on here, I didn't know anything about it until today. Phenom X #1. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, John Leguizamo's book.
John Leguizamo is doing a book, and I was like, what? I want to read it just for that.
When I look at it, all I can think of is the Pest with superpowers. So it was hard for me to be like, I'm gonna commit to it. I hope it's good, and I'm glad John Leguizamo is writing more. He's obviously, him being a talented actor, and especially stand-up, comedian. Obviously, he can write, because most of his jokes he's writing. Maybe he writes with a partner, but it would be good. He's been in entertainment for so long. I hope he does roll over into writing and producing and directing, just to extend his career, because he's so talented.
I'm just super curious. I'm just maybe it's awesome. Maybe when someone who doesn't need to do comics, John Leguizamo's probably just got he could just live the rest of his life happy, kind of money, right? He's not. I'm hoping. I'll cross my fingers here. He hasn't gone into financial problems or anything. He doesn't need. So he's doing this out of a labor of love, right? You don't go from Hollywood star and world class stand up comedian to like, oh, I'm gonna go write a comic book. This is not a lucrative trade. So if you're doing it, it's because you got something you love about, or you got something to say. There's, you know what I'm saying? So that's what makes me curious.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, he's from New York, and that's the, comic book mecca. So obviously he was around them a lot. I'm sure he read them as a kid growing up. This is probably just a natural, progression. He might have even gotten to this sooner if he wasn't so successful with acting and stand up.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we don't want to sit on this too long, but we do like to give attention to all the books. Well, not all of them. Some of the books that came out. There's I got Demons by Scott Snyder. If you guys don't have Comixology, there's quite a few books now that make Comixology worth it. Demons is probably the least good of the Scott Snyder books that I've read. He's gonna have a total of 8 of them. I think 4 have come out so far. But this one does have Greg Capullo art. It looks great. It reminds me a lot of Spawn. If you guys remember back in the days when Greg Capullo was on Spawn, Demons looks like that. And you never know where it's going to go. But I think if you're a Spawn fan, you probably like Demons. It feels like Scott Snyder going, I'm going to do my own version of Spawn. Who knows? But that's... I don't know. Is there anything else, Skip, that you wanted before I zap past this?
Let's see. You're going through it. I thought there was one other. No, that's it for the most part. Shout out to Brian Michael Bendis for doing a variant cover for What's the Furthest Place from Here. A lot of people forget that he's an artist as well. And so it's cool to see him doing that. Oddly enough, Jonathan Hickman is also doing a variant cover for issue number 2 of What's the Farthest Place from Here, and I got that ready to go. Yeah, can't wait for that. I kind of do miss Hickman's covers for like the nightly news and other little variant covers he'd do here.
Well, speaking of variant covers that people like to see, we're going to go into our shout-out section. You guys, by the way, take a time to shout out any indie books you're reading. Doesn't have to be this week. These are the books that Skip and I may, just want to kind of put a little highlight on since the last show that we're reading. And we got this is one of my faves. I didn't think I was going to like this book at all. And it is called Fight Girls. The newest issue is issue 4. And it's pretty much what the cover shows. But it's not bad like the cover. When you look at this cover, for me, I go, it looks like it's going to be a terrible book. But it's very interesting. It's very Hunger Games rip-off-ish kind of book. But it's not an exact clone. It's a little bit different. The basic premise is there's an interplanetary blah, blah, blah thing. The queen is dead. We need a new queen. The way the queen is put into place is they have a competition between a bunch of women, and whoever wins becomes the new queen. There you go. Simple. And then there's 10 different girls. They have different challenges that are mostly deadly. And yeah, actually right here on the comic book it says 10 women, 4 challenges, 1 crown. Winner rules the empire. Boom. Concise. That's what it is. And you go, that sounds dumb. Yes, it would be dumb, except that there's intrigue behind the scenes of what's going on. Who are some of these characters? Maybe there's some foul play going on. But you also get beautiful Frank Cho art. This is a comic that's not deep. It's kind of like a Michael Bay movie. You're buying it because it looks pretty and it's fun, and you can stuff your face with popcorn. And when you're done, you're like, you got a smile on your face. You had a good time. Unless it's a certain Michael Bay movie, then you'd probably pissed off and punch your fist into a wall. Anyways, moving on. Skip, you read Fight Girls. What do you have to say about it?
Yeah, I was an early adopter of it. I've been talking about it ever since I got it, and I've been enjoying it this whole entire time. The intrigue of it was able to hold up, which I was curious about. I wasn't sure if the intrigue was going to fizzle out. But Frank Cho introduced it at the perfect time and has been keeping it running very well. Along with fantastic anatomy. Frank Cho is known for. It's funny because I meant that in more of a sterile way. I mean, like people
Sure.
obviously know that he's known for drawing. I mean, he's known for the ladies, but he really draw like male anatomy, really all of it. He's just so good at it. So that, and I was surprised at how well his backgrounds and stuff have been also. So all the way around, Frank Cho is putting some storytelling chops on display, and everybody already knows that he can get down with the pen and the pad. So it's looking good, man. I've been enjoying it. Can't wait to see what the and I was surprised at how this last issue ended as well. It was obviously there was already a twist built in, but there was an additional twist, and I was like,
Yeah.
so I can't wait to see how they land the plane.
This is one of those books. It starts off the first issue super simple. It's just like a bunch of women in a contest. You're like, oh, the plot is like paper thin. But each issue gets a little bit deeper and deeper and deeper. And then this issue, number 4, really everything sort of comes to a head. And the fifth issue is the final issue, so it feels just right. It feels like, oh crap, everything is here. Like in the final, the pacing of this book is outstanding. I personally don't really like cheesecake. Like it's kind of a turnoff for me, and I'm not saying that as a diss to anyone who does like it. It's just not my cup of tea. And so a book like this, you'd think would be kind of a turnoff, but I don't really consider this cheesecake, because even though these girls are wearing kind of scantily clad, Frank never really puts them in like sexual positions. It's all like they're just competing. Like and like you said, it's just the anatomy. And as a male, I look and say the female anatomy is very alluring, but you know what I'm saying? It's not like they're posing for Victoria's Secret model shots. It's
it's true. This is a lot more akin to like what you can expect to see if you were watching like women in the Olympics and the attire that they wear in the Olympics. And it's true. Cho does not put them in a lot of suggestive positions. The camera moves around very well, and just due to his skill alone that he's garnered in like drawing anatomy, it looks good. But yeah, he's definitely not reaching as much as some would probably think from maybe his reputation.
right. And moving quite along, your pick of a book you wanted to shout out is Silver Coin, a book that started off as a miniseries and saw a new life, and apparently is now an ongoing. I like to see that.
Yeah, me too. It was a book that or a series that I was kind of up and down on. Quality was a little inconsistent once we got past the second issue, but I loved the first issue, which was a Chip Zdarsky story. And come back around to this particular tale, I really loved with this one. I mean, it's arcades, gaming, and horror, all mixed in one. So I had a heck of a time. I am really close to pulling the trigger on that James Harren cover. I did get cover A because it. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. That is for number 6. I did get cover A because I had to get like the. Dang it, how am I forgetting what the name of like that style of arcade, but the arcade cabinet, I had to get one with that in there, but I enjoyed it. So James Harren, I might end up getting that variant as well to add it to my collection.
Yeah, you showed that to me, and I was like, I've been on the fence about jumping onto this series. But again, I'm not the big horror guy, and then there's other books, and I'm like, it's still close. Like, I don't want to wait too long. Like with Ice Cream Man, I feel like I missed the boat, to like get the whole series. But so I'm like, I could find 1 through 5 probably pretty easy, and I can start collecting. But then I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I'll just I was thinking maybe I'll just get this digitally or trades.
I would say start with digital for sure. I mean, obviously, Image does the half off after it, 1 month after it's released digitally. So it's $2 per issue. And then for some, it'll be even more affordable. They'll drop them down to 99 cents. Sometimes they're even free. But what I was going to say about Silver Coin is similar to Ice Cream Man. It's anthology, so you don't have to have read the previous ones to get in on this one. pretty much need to know like the silver coin
Yeah.
is,
And that's
is a bad omen. So if you have ever played pinball, arcade games, if you were a kid that grew up around that, or just especially for this book group in that era, I say, and you like, and and if you like horror from around that era too, or at all, just go and grab this issue and just enjoy it.
yeah. Yeah,
It's so good.
my problem
Joshua
is
Williamson did a great job.
I got that collector bug, right? And it just eats at me if I have books and I'm like, I gotta have, even if I don't like the issues, I'm like, I need to own them. Like I like to, I don't want to like have a collection that starts at 6. I'm like, there's only 5 issues. What am I doing? Like, why do I not own those? That's why I would just buy them. So that's my personal cross to bear. But a lot of people are loving this book, and what you said is great, because some people don't have my OCD. They're not as anal retentive as me, and that's a great thing. I love that you can just go and pick up an issue, and you don't have to be like, oh, I got to start at number 1. That's a really big obstacle in modern comics these days, and I feel it's kind of a problem. It used to be comics were designed just pick it up, just start anywhere, and nowadays is like if like one of my favorite comics, Oblivion Song, you need to start at number 1. I want everyone to read that book, but don't jump in at issue 30. It's like, you're gonna miss out on a lot. Same thing with like Firepower. Like, I really feel you need to start on that trade. It'll hit differently. And it's a good thing and a bad thing. It's great if you were there from the beginning, because you get all that. But if you and so we need more books like Silver Coin and Ice Cream Man that you can just like, this looks cool, I want to pick it up, and you're not like, oh, I got 25 issues of story I don't understand. Yeah. Let's see. I'm not seeing. No one's. A couple other people saying seconding Silver Coin. And then last book we're gonna give a shout out is a book I picked up last week, and I very much enjoyed it. But I feel like it needs more than an issue to really be certain about it. Like, it's a good start. It feels like a good first chapter. I'm definitely interested where it's going and reading more, but it's really hard to just give it the full 2 thumbs up. But it's Chip Zdarsky, Jacob Phillips. It's a crime book. It's kind of just everything that I kind of want, and I'm happy with it. What about you? I think you picked this up too, didn't you, Skip?
Yeah, I got New Burn, and it was cool. Like, gave me some like throwback vibes to like Brubaker and Phillips first working together, like around scene of the crime type. Even though Marco Lark did it, it's just like seeing the inks be a little thicker and like a little heavier. And I did appreciate, because I read some of That Texas Blood, and I did appreciate Jacob Phillips coming in and bringing a slightly different style with his line work that he did in that other book.
Yeah, me too.
Not necessarily better, but just like different, and even a different coloring scheme. He wasn't as, for lack of a better term, like avant-garde and abstract with his coloring. He kind of kept it a little more in the pocket, which is more appropriate for, I feel like more appropriate for these types of stories. He gets away with it in Criminal because like he's doing it over his dad's lines. So like there's something about that Jacob's, blood working together that
right.
like, or that Phillips blood working together that like makes it work. But in here, I'm glad he reeled back how he does his coloring. It flowed a lot better. I really need to read issue number 2 to kind of see where the motor is going to go. But I heard Jacob's already penciling issue number 7. Chip Zdarsky said in an interview. So sounds like they're deep into they're deep into it already.
That's awesome to hear. Yes, I want more ongoing comics, please. If any of you guys, by the chances, any indie creators are out there doing, don't stop these 6-issue miniseries. And I know some people are going to disagree with me and be like, no, that's fine. This is my personal opinion. Stop. Unless it's something super special. I'm not saying never have miniseries, right? Some of the greatest comics I've ever read in my life were miniseries. And and they can be fantastic. There's a place for them. But we've hit this kind of world, in my opinion, where over half the comics nowadays are miniseries. It's not like just the special books that it's just a 6-issue story. A miniseries is like a movie, right? Versus a TV show. Some things work as a movie. We make one film and boom, it's set, it's done, great. But that's why movies have always been different than TV. We've always thought movies are special. If you went to the movies and you saw a movie that was like the quality of a TV show, most people would be pissed off. You're like, what? I could have just saw an episode of TV that, you know, and comics, it just feels that way. Plus, it's a collector thing. One of the things I love about comics, besides reading them and enjoying the art, I enjoy the collecting. And when you have a book that I can just come month after month and like clockwork, it's just coming out, you know, I've been collecting, like one of my favorite books is Oblivion Song. It's in the late 30s right now. I've been collecting it for several years. I just love coming back to it and staying with it for a long period of time. It's part of my life. That's, to me, a big joy of comics. And so I hope New Bern is one of those books. I hope it can have, you know, and I know it can't run forever. You know, I'm happy if you can hit over 40 issues, thumbs up, you know. I think like East to West was fantastic. 45 issues. It was around for several years, you know. Do that. If you can do that, then I'll, you know, if you can do it longer, if you can do Walking Dead and 193 issues, even better, you know. If you can be like Todd McFarlane and have Spawn running for 300 million, how many issues are they doing now? Even better. You know, that's what I want to see. So I'm excited. I'm enjoying New Bern. It's got great potential in my eyes. Skip. Did you die on me? Epidoxa in chat says, Chip is greater than Tom King. I no argument there. So, hopefully, did I lose the stream? That would suck. I still hear it. So, I don't know where Skip went. Give me 1 second here. Looks like Skip might have had to take a step away. So we'll try to continue this, me flying solo for a moment. What was I going to say? Oh, I was going to talk about, we're going to be heading into Firepower here in a minute. That's our feature book for the night. Every episode, we have one issue, well, until we change things. We have one issue that we kind of feature. And one of those books is Firepower, so it's kind of like a fan cast. And it's, you know, if you ever seen like The Walking Dead, they have the Talking Dead shows where they just geek out over it. That's kind of that's how we started. Firepower has been a book that we've been doing, I want to say, since the beginning. I'm pretty sure. It feels like we have. And a lot of people here, you know, the regulars listening to the show, that's been a book they've been following along. It's fun. This is what I love about collecting comics is Firepower. Or books like this where it's just the ongoing, that, you know, saga that you just every month it stays with you. And let's see, one of the things I want to talk about, and unfortunately Skip's not available at the moment. Hopefully you're okay, Skip, but is music. Do any of you guys listen to music when you read? I do. I try to, especially when it's a good comic. If I'm reading a comic to do a review on, or I'm just like only half, and I don't care, I'll just blast through it. But when it's a book that matters to me, I always try to find a comfortable place to read. And I try to make sure I have time to read it all the way through. I don't like reading comics in chunks. And I try to put on some music, usually some sort of orchestral, some sort of instrumental. I can't read when there's lyrics. And one of the music artists, it's a group of 2 artists actually, they're called 2 Steps from Hell, and they do a type of music that's called positional music, which is basically that's music designed to be placed as a background, usually for like movie trailers or commercials, or something like that. And it's usually very short pieces, anywhere from 1 minute to 3 minutes. It's not long. They're usually not structured the same way as other songs because, like an actual movie score might have a lot of lulls and different things. But this is designed to be like for like a 2-minute trailer, all intensity. So it has a lot more of an epic feel. Sometimes people call this music epic music. But anyways, Two Steps from Hell is one of the best artists out there that do this. These type of artists didn't used to release their music publicly. Like, you couldn't buy it in stores. This only started, I think, within the last 10 years. It sort of became a thing. Two Steps from Hell is one of the first that I've ever discovered, or one of the first artists to do this, and one of the most popular. Anyways, this particular album called Dragon, you see, I put the cover on the screen for those of you who have the ability to see it. This is what I listen to when I read Firepower. So it captures the book, the feel of the book for me. I thought I would share this just as something to consider if you're a fellow reader, what you do. I like to hear what other people are doing. But also, maybe you're reading a book, like sometimes you don't know like what is appropriate to listen for a book, like what's going to be the best music. So sometimes hearing someone else say, oh, this, like I like cast music. So if you are that sounds interesting to you, try that. If next time you read issue of Firepower, get a hold of this. I have a YouTube music account, or if you have Spotify or whatever, I don't know. Or you can just, if you like to buy music, I don't care. Whatever. Dragon, Two Steps from Hell. Try it out and see. It fits. This really fit this current issue that we had today. So Epidoxa says he's a silent reader. He only really into a book. He likes. If you're really into a book, you read alone out loud. Very interesting. Let's see. You Know Nothing, John Stone says, soon it will be cold enough by Emancipator. I believe Emancipator is a synthwave, if I'm correct. Now what? See, I'm one of those people. I can't listen to just any music with any book. Like, I have to cast the music appropriately. Dragon has a very Asian sort of feel to it, and so it fits into the Firepower really well. And a lot of Asian music that typically would, have that feel isn't epic, right? Like, a lot of it is. So if you just went and like looked up like different Asian instrumental artists, composers, the music. So this is a unique combination. That's why I thought it was worth mentioning. Ben Uncle says he listens to jazz, mostly Miles Davis, for the Brubaker Phillips books. That's a very interesting choice. I could see that. But most of the time you read in silence. Okay, very good. You want the art and the writing to dictate the mood, not the music. Yeah, that can be a double-edged sword if you put on music that like contrasts, contradicts what you're reading. That can be tough. Incidentally, what I've found when I read the Brubaker criminal books, the Grand Theft Auto 5 score, not the music soundtrack, but there's a score, which is it's fantastic. It fits criminal books perfectly. It's like it just and also the Reckless books. I read their last Reckless book. I put that on. That's something that I would recommend. So a lot of people are saying that they're silent readers, and that makes a lot of sense. I would, if you are a silent reader, there's obviously no problem. Read however you like, obviously what works best for you, but maybe consider trying sometime, like finding a particular book, maybe not every book, just a certain book. The way I started was actually reading novels. When I was reading novels, I would, if it was a novel that maybe had like a movie already established with it. For example, the Harry Potter books. When I started reading the Harry Potter books, the first movie had come out. So I just put on the John Williams soundtrack as I was reading the books, and it really just kind of helped. And I read every single book with always had the Harry Potter soundtrack. So that was kind of an advantage. If I read a Star Wars book, which is not really happening these days, but I would put on the Star Wars soundtrack or the comics. So it's those type of things that had like a definitive sound to me. That's where I started. But I don't want to, I'm kind of just burning time here right now, hoping Skip makes it back. I don't know. I don't know what happened. Obviously there must be something important going on, and I just hope that it's nothing troubling. You never know. We do live in California. There's earthquakes and things, so my imagination goes to the worst possible scenario. But the show must go on, as they say. So we will get into the book Firepower. This is probably the most exciting issue to date in my mind. At least the most climactic, I would say. This is an issue we're going to be heavy into spoilers here. It's sorry, I'm trying to do things behind the scenes while I'm stuttering here. Normally I have Skip to cover me when I do this, but
I can cover you while you do this.
No, look at that. Just in the nick of time.
Yeah, Firepower is a book that we really enjoy. We started it from issue number 1, and we've been covering every issue on this unnamed indie comic show. And part of the reason that we've done that is because it's been so consistent. From the first trade, which was the prelude that came out on into issue number 1, and all the way up into this issue where things really kind of broke wide open, especially one of the biggest mysteries that we had been waiting for to be revealed within the book. So this one was an absolute must to cover. I've personally been waiting for some of the reveals that we got in this issue. So we are going to be spoiling it, like Ash said. Hopefully you've been reading it. If not, you can come back and check us out later. Or if you don't mind taking the journey with us, you're more than welcome to, but we're going to crack this one wide open.
So, to begin, previously on Firepower, the Serpent's Omen returned for Haley, and it became very clear that even with the Firepower, she's no longer safe at home. Meanwhile, the Scorched Earth clan, now entirely under the control of the Serpents, have arrived at the Temple of the Flaming Fist. When Owen, Kelly, and Ling Zan joined the battle, they quickly realized that things were more dire than ever before. As the temple fell to the Serpent's control, Master Shah finally awoke from his statue, proving the legends were true. And here we go, Skip. Take it away.
Yep. So, yeah, Master Shah is out now. He has all of the serpents around him, and he's got Owen and Master Waylon right there, and also, kind of chastises, not McGuane, I'm forgetting the one guy's name. Oh, Chow Fang. Kind of chastising Chow Fang, sends a snake straight down his throat. So there he goes. He's out of the picture, and a full-on fight engages, including snakes, everyone that has been taken over from the Serpent's Omen, and Master Shah himself. Everybody was kung fu fighting. Ash, what did you think about this first scene?
It is it just started off in 6th gear. And I love that about this book. And this is one of the great things that I love that comics can do, is that you don't have to pick up every issue and do Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Like, you could just be right into Act 3 and firing away. And this is kind of like what you said, we were building up to. We have 17 issues plus a gigantic trade beforehand. And there's been a lot of fun on the way. But this is sort of the epicness I was kind of expecting on that big mile, when they did that. I think it was issue 12 with all the variant covers and things. I was expecting this level. So interesting that we're getting it on issue 17. Not that any of those other previous books were bad, but it was just like, oh, you thought you thought we were going on, and it just, Kirkman does that. He's like, oh, you thought that was, oh wait, we're gonna escalate it even further. So this was just terrific. This book was the fastest book of Firepower I read, not because I read it so quickly, but because it felt like I was enjoying it so much. I was so into it that it felt like it took me 60 seconds to read. By the time I flipped the last page, I was like, what, it's over? What? So yeah, that's what I have to say about this scenes.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, there was a lot of build up to it, and, you know, gears were switched. We went to lower gears, but we revved back up until we got here. And yeah, it's high gear pretty much all the way through. The scene isn't over because this whole issue is one scene. It's just so much going on. We have to pick places to stop and talk about it. Otherwise, we're just going to talk all the way through this story. So with that said, everybody, you know, was back to back. The fight has begun, and immediately Owen and Master Wei Lun go straight for Master Shaw to try to dispatch him, but he, blocks their blows, jumps over them, and kind of flings a horde of snakes right at Wei Lun, Owen, and Ma Guang. Master Wei Lun takes one straight to the neck, as does Ma Guang, so they're beginning to be possessed by the Serpent's Omen. And while Owen is looking on at them turning, Master Shaw throws a snake right at him, but of course Owen turns around right in the nick of time and almost does like the clap to pray hands stop of the snake, like right before it gets to his face. And then one of the coolest panels in the whole book, he uses the firepower to just burn the snake to ashes. But Ma Guang and Wei Lun dive right at him. So that fight begins. Master Shaw tosses some snakes in the direction of Kelly, Owen's wife, and Ling Zan, Owen's old flame. And Ling Zan actually kind of takes the hit, and covers up for Kelly. So sure enough, she gets the bite from both snakes, and she tries to fight the urge, but begins to turn and gets her hands wrapped around Kelly's neck. And right as she does, here comes Owen with a Liu Kang type dragon kick.
Oh yeah,
Ashram, stop right there. Like, go in, go for it.
Again, it's just the intensity. You're like, oh, now we're going on to this, and it's just boom, boom. I mean, and seeing, dang it, man, I'm drawing a blank. Master,
Wei Lun.
Wei Lun, yeah. He's had a couple of close calls in this series where snakes almost got him. And each time I was like, oh, good. I can't imagine what would happen if Wei Lun got infected. Like, he's the master, It's like Yoda, going to the dark side. You're like, oh, God, that'd be bad. And here you see it happening. You're like, no. It's just the way Kirkman knows how to turn up the juice. And you're right. One of my favorite scenes when he's holding the snake and just turns it to ash. That's something I haven't seen Owen able to do. I've seen him be able to throw fire, but I haven't been able to see him just incinerate something in his hands. So that was kind of cool to see a new, sort of like a new ability, if you will, a new way of using his ability. It was interesting to see Ling Zan kind of step in and protect Kelly, because we've talked about the little love triangle potential. We don't know where the story's going to go yet, but obviously there's a little bit of tension, as obviously these are both characters that were in love with Owen, at least at one point of their life. One is married to him currently. So yeah, you got that. But, Ling Zan throws her life to save Kelly. So it's kind of hard to be more honorable than that. And then, of course, she gets infected. And also good to see Owen doesn't pull a punch, at least not that we can tell. That, it's fully devoted. It's like he's going to save his wife. He's not going to hesitate and be like, I don't know, maybe Ling Zan. He's there in an instant, and very much happy seeing the characters making the decisions that they're making. Also feeling the tragedy, like, oh no, I don't want to see these people like possibly, what's going to happen to them. Are they going to get rescued? Are they going to have to be, killed? We did see another character earlier that seemingly was killed. I didn't know if I heard you talk about, but what's his name?
Yeah, Chinzul.
Chinzul. Was it Chinzul? No.
Oh no, no, Chinzul's Ling Zon's father. This was dang, I did say his name earlier. But I'm forgetting his name right now. But yeah, basically the guy that was the main bearer of the serpent's omen next to the woman that was in the hoodie, foretelling, that doom was coming. Yeah, like that's what I was saying. I said earlier, we thought he was going to be like, like mini big boss, and he just went out real quick.
Yeah, he kind of went out in a really dirty way. Just choke on this snake.
Chow Fang.
Yeah, Chow Fang. Choke on this snake and die. You're like, oh, that's terrible. So yeah, we don't know the fates of these characters, but we'll see where it goes. So continue on.
So as Owen comes in with the Liu Kang kick to Ling Zan to get her hands from around Kelly, they are the last two left that have not been taken over by the Serpent's Omen. So they go back to back, like Danny Glover and Mel Gibson in Lethal Weapon 2. And they just start going. Kelly pulls out her sidearm. She starts capping. Owen starts throwing them fireballs. I guess, again, it's very similar to Liu Kang. And with all of the fury that's going on, Kelly looks over to Owen over his shoulder and says, "I'm scared." Owen says, "Me too." And they are surrounded by nothing but fire and people that have been taken over by the Serpent's Omen in a very nice double-page spread. At this point, Master Shaw begins talking. It looks like he almost summons the lady that was in the purple hoodie that was kind of the first bearing of the Serpent's Omen, and asks, is that, the person who wills the firepower? Or no, it's told that's the person that wills the firepower. Asks if it's the woman, Kelly, Owen's wife, and the Serpent's Omen lady says, no, it's the male. And of course, Master Shaw gives the age-old kung fu movie,
yes,
bellow.
Yes, it totally is.
One of my favorite parts, because I grew up like collecting and watching kung fu movies, so I loved it very much. And he provokes Owen and basically tells him, like, show me your firepower. So Owen charges up, throws a hot one at him, and Master Shaw reaches his hand out and just blasts a beam completely back and overwhelms Kelly and Owen, gets them off their feet in the air on the ground. Ash, what kind of power does Master Shaw have?
Dude, one of my favorite movies, if not my favorite movie of all time, is Return of the Jedi. And I remember being little, what was I, 10-year-old Ash, maybe, seeing that movie in the theater. And when Luke Skywalker, my hero, who's now just defeated Jabba the Hutt, he's shown himself to be a true Jedi Knight, just like his father. And he faces down the Emperor, and the Emperor says, "So be it, Jedi," and just wipes the floor with Luke. My face, my mouth, I was like, oh, what? Like, this evoked that same sort of feeling, kind of like I thought Kirkman was doing his best to channel that, where it's just like, silly firepower. I will show you true power. And that's what Shaw does here. And you're just like, this perfect effect here. You see this page with Shaw just throwing the uber, just the whole page is like lit up. The coloring here is so great. It's so washed out. And it just kind of makes you feel like a little bit blinded. And we see the aftermath where there's kind of just this cratered out area and Owen and Kelly just lying on the ground. And such sinister nature of the boss, and he's just like, they're not even worth my time. I'm not even gonna bother like turning them. Just kill them. Just like, you're like, damn. Epidoxa in the chat says Shaw is cold-blooded AF, and that is the truth.
Absolutely, utterly cold. On that note, so cold that he turns and gives them the cold shoulder and walks off, leaving the Serpent's Omen and everyone who has been infected by it to go after Kelly and Owen. And right as they begin to, Owen throws some moves out and throws out a fireball, creates a clear path. Kelly runs right through it. And then they are making their way out of there. We go over to Master Shaw, who is into where the dragon was supposed to be hidden away in the Temple of the Flaming Fist, and he is calling it to arise, takes a pose, then gives a focused blow down to the ground and breaks the earth, and we get a huge beam coming up from the ground. We flash back over to Kelly and Owen as they are making way. They are getting the hell out of Dodge, but they stop to look back because the beam is so bright and so big. There's no way that they couldn't, take a look at it. They couldn't grab their attention. And right as they take their eyes off the prize, which is getting out of there, Master Wei Lun, who is infected, jumps right into their path and takes Kelly off of her feet. But immediately after that, there's a huge boom, and the big temple, the actual temple on the grounds of the Temple of the Flaming Fist explodes, and there is a huge earthquake. Things begin to fall. They're still running. Dodging things is parkour time. And right as they get outside of the immediate grounds of the Temple of the Flaming Fist to the stairs, which is the first scene of the whole entire series back in the prelude, they are met by their kids and Kelly's partner, who I always
Reggie.
His name. Reggie. Ash, take it away.
He's the easy one. He's the only one who's got a Western name. Well,
That's true.
maybe Owen, but yeah. So yeah, this was great. Starting off here where they make their getaway, and you make this page transition to Master Shaw, and you see that the dragon doors that are so important. Excuse me, going back way back to the beginning. I might have been. I think it was in the trade paperback original when Owen goes through the doors of the dragon, and Wei Lun has to go and pull him out, and setting up this mystery that's been going on ever since about what is the dragon, is it even real, what's going on. And we see now that the doors are open. Shaw is inside, and he's doing some sort of ritualistic thing, presumably summoning the dragon. This, again, I was reading this book, and you got just action, and it's meaningful action. It's not, if you just pick this book up and this was your first issue of Firepower, it's not going to read the way Skip and I read it, or anyone who's been a fan of this book. It's going to just be like, oh, there's some things going on. But if you've been following it, you understand the importance of every panel, what's been building up to this. And this scene here to me was like the whole, like putting my fingers in my mouth, just like, like, oh my God, it's bad enough that Shaw's come back and he's part of the Serpent's Omen, but now he's going to pretend like he's going to summon the dragon. And we get this next page, and it's just him and this massive beam of light erupting from the ground, and in perfect Kirkman form, this dude knows how to stretch a tease in a good way. He doesn't, it's not like that show Lost where it went like 5 seasons before it told you anything. That was but he just knows. He's like, he wags your finger. You thought I was going to show you the dragon on this next page. Nope, we show you a beam. We still haven't fully seen. We know something important's happening. We know something big is happening, but we're still not quite 100% sure what we're going to see. And I love that. Kirkman just sparks your imagination, because I have a feeling, I'm right, that everyone that's read this is putting their imagination to use and speculating on what that light is and what's going to come out of that ground. And probably Kirkman's going to go in a direction that is different. Maybe not. I don't know if we call it. We've been wrong so far on a lot of these of our predictions, but that's some of the excitement. It's like, oh, what? And you just don't know. And I love that he doesn't just show you immediately. He stretches it out a little bit, keeps you on the hook. And the action's still not over. They're running away, getting away from the temple. And like you said, they turn around when they're far enough away, and then the whole thing erupts. And again, this is another like, oh my God, what is going on? Got to turn the page. And it took every ounce of resistance for me to like keep an even pace as I'm reading this book, because it sometimes it's easy to just like blast through it, especially when you're really into it. And it's not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but I feel like my enjoyment is enhanced when I keep the pacing proper and I don't just, and so I'm like, ugh. And I'm just going through these, and I get to this page here, and I'm like, oh, there's the kids, and then I flip, and it's the letters page. And I was like, what? That's it? And at this point, even though I wasn't reading particularly fast, like I told you earlier, I felt like I was reading this book for like a minute or two. Like it just was so exciting that it flew by. I love this issue. On its own, it's not necessarily like the greatest issue, but it's what it means, like how it's built, how it puts the climax on every issue that's led up to this point. And it's not even the real climax. This is the tease to the climax. So I'm super excited. Skip, I've hogged the mic too long. What are your thoughts?
I mean, like I said, it did everything. I mean, especially because my biggest thing, even above the dragon, was Master Shaw. We had collectively been coming up with ideas of what was going on with the dragon. Was it real? Was it not real? XYZ. But I think Shaw, especially since we saw him, like the dragon we didn't see, so I think there's a little more room to speculate there. But we saw Shaw.
Yeah.
We just didn't know when. Shaw was just like the dragon is like what and when. Shaw is like when.
But we also kind of thought Shaw was a good guy.
I mean, kind of, but yeah, but we had a untrustworthy narrator because we were getting two sides of the story from two different clans, literally.
True.
So, I mean, but in either case, regardless of what we thought, it was when are we going to get some of those answers, and for us to get it here, that this and who Owen's parents are my biggest personal mysteries. The dragon comes third, so I was just happy to get this, and it was fulfilling the way that they revealed it. Ultimately, ended up what happened. Of course, it was tropey. It was like the whole "you're not worthy of my time" type thing, which usually comes and bites bad guys in the butt. But excuse me, it's a trope that I'm used to within stories like this, so I was fine with it. And then I was also fine with it because I'm not ready for this book to end. Like I wasn't ready for him to just like blow Owen away, have Owen's skeleton be there burnt to a crisp, and thank you for buying issue 17 of Firepower, which is now over. Or technically then to his daughter, trying to gain revenge for her father, but then we never would have figured out the whole Owen's parents thing. So it would have been like, who are her grandparents? It could have went that way, but for obvious reasons, the story needs to go on. So I was fine with that particular trope. All of the execution and everything was so solid. It was just, hey, we revved up the engines in the last issue, and then we're picking up right where we left off. So we were already throttling 45, 50 miles per hour when we started, and then it definitely just kept going from there.
Yeah, for sure. One thing that this issue reminded me of, not necessarily in its theme, but in its execution, and this is going to be a spoiler for Invincible, whether it's the show or the comic. If you have not seen the show or read the comic, one of the two, this may spoil something for you, and I highly recommend you read Invincible. At the very least, watch the show. So you may want to just mute them for a second, 30 seconds, whatever, if you don't want, because it's worth not being spoiled. Anyways, in Invincible, I think it's around issue 12-ish. I could get my issues numbers wrong because the comic flows a little differently, but it's within the show. In fact, it's the climax of the show where the son fights his dad, and it just was something you didn't see coming, at least not in that direction, and it sort of changed everything at that point. Like it was this huge ultimate climactic thing, and you were like, oh damn. And the story was forever changed, and I really kickstarted the story. Like if you read the comics, then you leading up to that point, you're like, kind of humdrum, whatever. and then and then boom, it just launches in the stratosphere. This is what this is seeming to do for me here. This little story arc that's happening now between Shaw, where the reveal of the Serpent's Omens, we're going to get this dragon. It feels like everything up to this point has been kind of the setup. Let's introduce the family, and let's show Owen having a quiet life after his adventure in the trade paperback, which takes place 15 years prior to the comic series. And we're gonna leak some stuff and some world building things in here and establish these side characters and have some adventures on the way, and then boom, like Kirkman drops a nuke, and that's what's feeling right now. Is this issue, and then hopefully the next is going to be even more intense. Is this massive thing? According to the letters page, next issue is the final issue of this arc. What that exactly means in Kirkman's I don't know, but that's what he says. I'm just glad it's not the final issue of the series, and I'm hoping this like Invincible. I'm hoping that this is the big kickoff, the big event that really just sets this series onto an epic trajectory. What about you, Skip?
I mean, naturally that's my hope too, and like I said, I think one of the key things is introducing Haley as someone who also possesses the firepower.
Mm-hmm.
Means that there are options to continue the story. So I'm very confident that the story will continue. And Kirkman's got enough, money that he can carry the story as long as he wants to take it. Now he's also a smart businessman, so he's not just gonna run himself, go completely over budget for his own passion project. But I'm there's books that I believe probably sell a lot less over at Skybound that somehow have found their way into like the 40s and stuff. So I'm very confident as long as he and Samnee continue to be inspired, as long as Matt Wilson and Russ Wooten continue to want to work on the project, we got more of these to come, and that's a good feeling.
Yeah, and I'm just excited to see where this can go, because this episode or this issue, I don't know. I mean, this is a curious question, or your school of thought is on this. Do you like the idea of the scope of this story expanding and becoming more epic and more mystical, or do you like to see it be kind of more grounded?
Usually I have a definite answer for stuff like that, but in this particular case, I don't. And I think part of the reason is I trust the creative team so much.
That's fair answer.
So, I'm very particular. I've gone on record multiple times in multiple different, channels and avenues and, however media is consumed and conversations are had talking about. I'm quick to drop stuff. I'm quick to be particular about a creative team. I can be very choosy when it comes to, my comics, but they have just earned and banked so much goodwill and good faith with me that they're gonna have to make a series of mistakes. They're gonna have to train wreck pretty bad before I'm out of this series. So if they want to take it more mystical, like if there's one culture's mystic, pantheon or or mystical stories that I am the most interested in, it's easily Asian culture, especially Japanese and Chinese culture. So they can take it there, and I'm going to go with them. But if they want to ground it, I'm all for it, because that's where we started, and I was loving it back then. But what about you, Ash?
Well, I'm sort of share your answer. I do trust the team. So I think whichever direction it goes, I presume I'm going to be happy. But if you if you just gave, like, if you were Robert Kirkman and you said, I'm deciding, I'm not sure which way I should go, and you said, and he came to me and said, Ash, which way should I go? I would be go the mystical way. Like, keep ramping it up. I want to see the Serpent's Omen just be the tip of the iceberg. I want to know, if there's one dragon, could there be more? Is there a whole nother kung fu school out there that we haven't heard of yet? That's, you know, like, I kind of like to see this world break open, and that's just me. Like I said, whichever direction he goes, I trust him. He's been doing fantastic, but when I see this stuff, I'm like, oh yeah, give me more.
I hear you.
All right, folks, that concludes Firepower. Hopefully you enjoyed it as much as we did. If you are not reading this book still, and you're coming to this show, first of all, I thank you. Thank you for coming and listening to what we have to say, and then just sharing time with us. This is one of my favorite things about comics, is sharing with people. This is why I started doing YouTube stuff. Not because I thought I was going to be some star, but just because I love talking to people that share the same joys of the hobby as I do. But if you're not why are you not reading this book? This is my question. We're not living in the golden age of comics right now, in my opinion. There's some good stuff out there. I would not even say Firepower is the best book on the shelf, although it is one of my favorites. It's worth your time. And if you're here, you're at least partially interested, give this a try. It's only 17 issues in. Start with the trade paperback. You can find the trade paperback. You should be able to find it almost anywhere. It's $9.99. If your store doesn't have it, Amazon does. You probably even get a discount on Amazon. It's 160 pages. That's like 8 comic books worth of stuff for $9.99. And it is my number one book from 2018. It's a standalone. It's fantastic. If you read that and you go, you know what, Ash, I read this and I'm not interested to keep going, hey, no problem. And you don't need to keep going. That book is just totally designed. It has an ending. You know, you could just stop with that and be like, I got a good story. But you at least gave it a shot. And maybe, who knows, it might become your favorite book. I can't oversell this comic. This book is a joy. Even through its flaws, even if it's imperfections, there's just something intangible about this book and what it's achieving. And I love that Kirkman is delivering month after month. It's consistent. I think they're like 10 books ahead, so that you never have to worry about like late issues and things like that. Kirkman said in one of his previous letters pages that his story, like his planning board, like I guess he's got this whole system, the way he plots out things and projects out to the future of where he's going to go, he said is like much, much more intricate than what he was doing with Walking Dead. So that was something that gave me a lot of excitement, because it sounds like he's got a lot of plans, and it sounds like they're a lot more formulated. Like he's not just flying by the seat of his pants. And Walking Dead was a fantastic success. So maybe Kung Fu comics are like, hey, you're like me. I was that way too. But it's a fun adventure book. You don't have to like Kung Fu. This is not even really about the Kung Fu. This is just a backdrop for adventure. This comic actually feels a lot more like a superhero book, to be honest, in my opinion. So try it out. Do you have any final thoughts along those lines, Skip?
What was the last question? My headphones kicked out.
Oh, no worries. I was just giving my final thoughts about just Firepower in general and people reading it and just, you know, things like that. Just if I don't know, just giving you a chance if there was anything you wanted to say before we moved on.
No, that was it. Just I'm sticking with it. I put in the chat as Epidoxa had said, you know, I trust them to do whatever. If they open up a portal to a snake world and sucked everyone in and everything is nuts, fine. I'm in for the ride. When I was saying the same thing, I'm like, yeah, I'm open to it staying grounded. But if they open things up, I would totally dive deeper into this world. So
what if they went? What if they went to space?
Then Ash, we're going to space.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, simple as that.
Awesome. All right. So I'm going to close off with an experimental thing I warned Skip about a little bit. Something we haven't done yet. It's very minor, but I like this in theory. And basically, it's the picks of next week. So I'm gonna throw up. Oops, I forgot. I gotta put this up for Skip so he can see.
Please don't throw up. At least wait until after the show.
I gotta throw up on you, Skip.
Oh, that's even gross.
You need to be there for me.
I had kids, so I'm used to it.
So this is gonna just take a quick look at what's coming out in stores next week in the world of indies, and give Skip and myself a chance to maybe point you in the direction of something to buy because you don't have enough good comics in your life. So Skip, on a screen, I've got 14 books coming out, some of the most popular books. Is there anything that you would like to point out and maybe recommend to listeners?
I see. Of all those, of course, DECORUM, which actually got pushed back to December, so it's not actually coming out next week, unfortunately. Yeah, we've been waiting for this one issue since March, and it was ready to come out, but so finally when Mike Huddleston finished the art, the paper shortage got the best of it. Primordial, I hadn't read number 2 yet. I really enjoyed number 1, so that might be one to look out for as well. But the main book for next week, I mentioned those ones. The main one for next week is Radio Apocalypse by Rom V. That's the main one to look for.
Oh, it might be down a little bit.
There it is. Next to that, Texas Blood, Radio Apocalypse.
All right. I think we need to change the name from DECORUM to DELAY'Em.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. When did the last issue come out? Like March?
Yeah, I said it, March. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay, sorry. Oh, that's so crazy. It might be a year because we don't necessarily know it's coming out in December. We could come to December and be like, well, it's actually coming out in January.
Totally. I mean, at this point, with everything that's going on with comic book distribution and then, materials being constrained, I would not be surprised if it's March of next year, a full year after, until I actually get my hands on that book. But I'll be waiting.
So Primordial is another one I want to second. It's a good book. It's Jeff Lemire. It's very interesting story and premise. I gave my reasons on when issue 1 came out of why I'm not personally on my pull list, but it's not really because the book's bad. I'm definitely very interested to see where this goes. This might be definitely something I'm picking up digitally or in trades, mostly because I have budget constraints and I just have to pick and choose, and it's tough. But Primordial is definitely, I think, a book that a lot of people are going to like even more than I do. So, issue number 2, it's only on 2 issues right now, so it's super easy to jump onto. Let's see. That Texas Blood is a book that I need to look more into. Everyone is always recommending that book. Chicken Devil, I read issue number 1. Pretty darn good. I don't want to say it's amazing, but I think the right crowd is going to love it, and it's really put Aftershock. Aftershock's been putting out some good stuff. I think you probably already know or not if you like Jupiter's Legacy at this point. I don't think Jupiter's Legacy is a book for new fans to jump on. You get the original Jupiter's Legacy and then make your decision, because that's the bee's knees, if you will. And what else? Let's see. A lot of these books. Oh, Sagio Jimbo. You can always jump on any issue of Asagio Jumbo. It's not an ongoing saga. You won't be lost. That's been one of my favorite books for 35 years. So how can I not recommend it? That book does not get enough attention. And Skip, if you see anything as I'm scrolling down, feel free to just interject.
You said it's next week. So for me, it's going to be Gun Honey number 3 for sure, because issue 1 was very compelling. And then issue 2, surprisingly kept pace and even deepened it. So Gun Honey #3, I've got on my list. I actually was able to find a store out here that still had some Adam Hughes first printings. It's just that they were unfortunately like a little bent, so they need a pressing. But I grabbed RDV, but friend of the channel RDV. I grabbed him his third printing, which had the larger exposed Adam Hughes cover. But I also grabbed he and I a Gun Honey first printing Adam Hughes. So he's got that coming in the mail.
Wow. It pays to be RDV. If
It
only he were here to lend us his support.
Oh, wouldn't that be something?
All right, so I'm gonna close this thing off because you had mentioned it already, and I just want to second it. I haven't read the book yet, but I'm damn well gonna get Radio Apocalypse #1. I sat on the many deaths of Leila Starr. I sat on that book. Everyone was like, "Oh, it's so good, it's amazing." And I was like, that does not look like a book for me. Wrapping up that theme where I was saying before, Leila Starr is one of the best comics I have read in a long time. It is utterly fantastic, a work of art that both blew me away and moved me emotionally. It's a book that sits with me still. Rom V, what you did with this story, that on the surface, if you just, when you pitch it to me, I go, whatever. And then I read it and I can't ignore anything else you do. So you're doing Radio Apocalypse next. It looks bizarre and weird. I know, Skip's going to get it because it's got radio in the name, and the O looks like a vinyl record. So he's probably going to buy 10 copies. But I'm going to buy it because of your name. And I know Skip is too. He's the one that turned me on to Rom V. And I'm so thankful you did, because it's astounding. This is even though I haven't read it, it's my recommendation of the week. So to try out for some people, put this on your radar, and give it some consideration. Skip, you got any final words as we say goodbye to the viewers?
Yeah, this is the same creative team on Radio Apocalypse, Rom V and Anand RK. They worked together previously on a book called Graffiti's Wall, and that is that book kind of had a similar, in a sense, like a little bit of a similar theme and feel. So if you are curious about what this book could kind of feel like, you can go back and read Graffiti's Wall. It does have a 5-star rating. If you look on like the Kindle app, and I don't think it's in Comixology. Yeah, actually, I think it's only in the Kindle app, I believe. But yeah, you can check that out. But yeah, Rom V, of course, Blue and Green, and I mean, just so much of the work that he's did. The many deaths of Leila Starr. Paradiso actually got coming in the mail. I won a bid for like $6 for the first 4 issues. Nice. I've been on a roll. I should play the lotto. I want a bid 99 cents for 2 different variants of East of West. Also, like recently, it's just been crazy. Nice. eBay has actually been a good place for me. But anyway, back to Rom V and Anand RK. Check out Graffiti's Wall. It got 5-star ratings. Radio Apocalypse will probably be the same way. Paradiso is on its way, and I can't wait to read that. And These Savage Shores, I heard people talk about it big time. Wes over at Thinking Critical would like passively say, that's the best book coming out right now. And then he would just move on to something else. I wish he would have hyped it more, because he gave it like he was speaking the truth, but it was so understated that I just kind of didn't really listen. And now I've got that lined up. So when I get my next paycheck, I'll probably have These Savage Shores coming too. It's really, really hard to get to the bottom of my to read pile. I know. I'm almost there.
The Many Deaths of Leila Starr is just phenomenal. It just blew me away. And you see, if you guys pay attention to my ratings when I rate books, I rate 1 to 5 stars, and I almost never give 5 stars, precisely for this reason, because I like when a book like Leila Starr, I want to be able to emphasize it and not just have a million other books I rated 5 stars next to it. 4 stars to me is a really good rating. Just the super criminal, and Leila Starr was it that I wish I could hype that book up even more. And it's not going to give you your superhero fix. It's not going to give you your big action wham bang. You know, it's not going to have the art of, say like Jorge Jimenez or anyone else that might have that great kinetic look. But like I said, it's a work of art. It moved me and stuck with me. And it just, when it does that, it forms like something personal. I actually care about this book. Unlike a recent issue of Batman or something, it's like eating a McDonald's hamburger. You're hungry and you just got to satisfy your stomach growling, so you wolf down a burger, but you don't care. It doesn't, but that series was like having one of the best steak dinners of your life, or whatever your favorite thing may be. With that, we're going to wrap things up because Eric Breen's here. That means we've been here too long. So I'm going to say good night. You going to say good night too, Skip?
I'm going to say I stand corrected. I actually got Paradiso for 99 cents. Everybody have a good night.